In 2025, the global geopolitical landscape is undergoing a profound transformation, moving away from the unipolar dominance of the United States that defined the post-Cold War era toward a fragmented, multipolar world where power is distributed among multiple actors, including the United States, China, Russia, India, the European Union, and pivotal regional powers such as Turkey, Israel, Azerbaijan, and Saudi Arabia. This shift is driven by a complex web of escalating tensions rooted in great power rivalries, regional conflicts, economic decoupling, technological competition, climate-induced pressures, and emerging challenges such as cyber warfare, space militarization, and demographic shifts. The concept of a new world order, once a vision of global cooperation under Western leadership, now reflects a contested reality where competing visions of governance, security, and economic systems vie for supremacy. This video provides an exhaustive, detailed analysis of these dynamics, focusing on critical conflicts, namely the India-Pakistan rivalry, the Russia-Ukraine war, and its implications for NATO, the Azerbaijan-Armenia conflict, Turkey's assertive regional ambitions, Israel's multifaceted security challenges, and other global flashpoints such as the South China Sea, the Korean Peninsula, Sudan, the Balkans, and emerging tensions in the Arctic and Africa's Sahel region. Additionally, it explores new dimensions shaping the multipolar order, including the role of artificial intelligence, AI, in geopolitics, the global energy transition, migration-driven instability, and the erosion of multilateral institutions. This analysis offers a comprehensive understanding of the New World Order and actionable strategies to navigate its complexities, drawing on the latest data, web sources, and insights from platforms like X as of May 30, 2025. The India-Pakistan rivalry, centered on the disputed territory of Jammu and Kashmir, remains one of the world's most volatile flashpoints. Given the nuclear arsenals of both nations, each exceeding 160 warheads, in May 2025, tensions escalated sharply following India's Operation Sindoor, a series of airstrikes targeting alleged militant camps in Pakistan-administered Kashmir, triggered by a terrorist attack that killed 28 tourists in Srinagar, attributed to the Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba. The operation involved 12 Rafale jets, supplied by France, and precision-guided munitions, destroying 15 targets with minimal civilian casualties, according to Indian military reports. Pakistan retaliated with a coordinated drone attack using Chinese-supplied Bayraktar TB2 and Wingloom-2 drones, targeting Indian military outposts along the Line of Control, LOC, resulting in 10 Indian casualties. Pakistan also deployed 20,000 additional troops to the LOC, while India conducted live-fire exercises involving 30,000 personnel. Social media platforms, particularly X, have highlighted a technological arms race, with India leveraging US-supplied Apache helicopters and French Scalp missiles, while Pakistan integrates Chinese J-20 stealth fighters and HQ-9 air defense systems. India's nuclear doctrine adheres to a no-first-use policy, but its development of hypersonic missiles capable of delivering nuclear payloads at Mach 7 raises concerns. Pakistan's ambiguous nuclear posture, which includes tactical nuclear weapons like the Nasr missile with a 60-kilometer range, heightens the risk of escalation. Both nations have advanced cyber capabilities, with India accusing Pakistan of hacking its power grid in Jammu, affecting 2 million users, and Pakistan alleging Indian disinformation campaigns that fueled protests in Balochistan, killing 15. The United States has deepened its strategic partnership with India through the Quad and $5 billion in annual defense sales, including Predator drones, viewing India as a counterweight to China. China, meanwhile, has invested $62 billion in the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, constructing highways, the Gwadar port, and 10 gigawatts of power plants, making it a de facto stakeholder in Pakistan's security. China's arms sales to Pakistan, including 50 J-10C fighters and Type 054A frigates, bolster its military capacity. Russia maintains ties with both nations, supplying India with 60% of its arms, including S-400 systems, and Pakistan with Mi-35 helicopters, navigating a delicate balance. A full-scale conflict would disrupt CPEC's $10 billion annual trade, destabilize 30% of global oil shipments through the Arabian Sea, and impact India's $120 billion pharmaceutical exports and Pakistan's $25 billion textile industry. The rivalry extends globally, with India's $1.5 billion arms exports to Armenia, including Akash missiles and 155mm artillery, countering Pakistan's support for Azerbaijan, which includes military training and diplomatic backing at the UN. De-escalation efforts, including UN talks in Geneva, face obstacles due to India's nationalist government, with 70% public support for a hardline stance, and Pakistan's economic fragility, with 3% GDP growth, 12% inflation, and $22 billion in debt payments due in 2025. A ceasefire, potentially brokered by the UAE or Qatar, is feasible, but resolving Kashmir's status requires a bilateral framework addressing autonomy, demilitarization, and cross-border trade, with $500 million in potential economic benefits. Confidence-building measures, such as joint counterterrorism units or a free trade zone in Kashmir, could reduce tensions, but mutual distrust and superpower rivalries pose challenges. The Russia-Ukraine war, now in its third year, remains a defining geopolitical crisis, reshaping global security, energy markets, and alliances. Russia controls 18% of Ukraine, including Crimea and parts of Donetsk and Luhansk, but its offensive has stalled, with 550,000 troop casualties and economic sanctions slashing GDP growth to 1.2% in 2024. Ukraine, supported by $110 billion in Western aid, including U.S.-supplied HIMARS, German Leopard 2 tanks, and UK Storm Shadow missiles, has reclaimed 5% of its territory since 2022, but faces challenges from infrastructure losses, $160 billion, and a 25% drop in grain production. The Trump administration's 2025 ceasefire push, focusing on Black Sea shipping routes, handling 12% of global grain, has yielded partial agreements on safe passage for 10 million tons of wheat, but Russia demands Ukrainian neutrality and recognition of annexed territories, while Kyiv seeks NATO membership and full territorial restoration. NATO's role has been critical, with Finland and Sweden's accession expanding its membership to 32 nations and boosting defense spending to $1.3 trillion, or 2.5% of GDP, in 2024. Ukraine's membership remains divisive, with Hungary citing economic ties to Russia and Turkey warning of nuclear risks. Russia's alignment with China, Iran, and North Korea, the CRINC axis, has strengthened its position, with China-Russia trade reaching $250 billion, including $80 billion in oil exports. Iran supplies 1,000 Shahed-136 drones monthly, used in 80% of Russia's airstrikes, while North Korea's 12,000 troops in Donbass have bolstered Russian forces. The war's global impacts include a 60% reduction in Russian gas to Europe, driving a 25% spike in energy prices and 6% Eurozone inflation. Russia and Ukraine's 25% share of global wheat has driven food prices up 15%, affecting 50 million people in Africa and the Middle East. Russia's cyber attacks, including the 2024 Baltic cable sabotage impacting 6 million users, underscore hybrid warfare risks. NATO faces challenges securing its eastern flank, with 40,000 troops in Poland and the Baltics, and countering Russia's 500 hypersonic missiles. A U.S. pivot to Asia could strain NATO, prompting the EU's $12 billion European Defense Fund to develop autonomous capabilities, including cyber defenses and sixth-generation fighters. Ceasefire talks, potentially hosted by Turkey or India, may pause hostilities, but a resolution requires addressing Ukraine's security and Russia's territorial claims, possibly through a neutral buffer zone monitored by 5,000 UN peacekeepers. The Azerbaijan-Armenia conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh has reshaped the South Caucasus, with Azerbaijan's 2023 offensive reclaiming the region, dissolving the Republic of Artsakh, and displacing 100,000 ethnic Armenians, prompting Armenia's International Court of Justice case accusing Azerbaijan of ethnic cleansing. Azerbaijan's $12 billion reconstruction plan aims to resettle 60,000 Azeris by 2026, with new infrastructure in Stepanakert, including a $500 million airport. Peace talks in March 2025 progressed, but the Zangezur corridor, a 43-kilometer route through Armenia's Syunik province, remains contentious. Azerbaijan seeks a sovereign highway, while Armenia demands control to protect its sovereignty, fearing encirclement by Azerbaijan and Turkey. Turkey's support for Azerbaijan, including $2 billion in Bayraktar TB2 drones and a Nakhichevan gas pipeline, has shifted regional power, reducing Russia's influence. Russia's 2,000 peacekeepers, set to withdraw in November 2025, failed to prevent Azerbaijan's advance, pushing Armenia toward India, which supplied $1.8 billion in arms, including Akash missiles and Swathi radar systems. Israel's $1.2 billion in drones and missiles to Azerbaijan aligns against Iran, which supports Armenia with $300 million in economic aid and joint exercises. Pakistan's military training and diplomatic support for Azerbaijan counter India's role, linking the Caucasus to South Asia. The Zangezur corridor could make Azerbaijan a trade hub, boosting the Middle Corridor's 3.5 million tons of freight by 50%. A peace treaty is possible, but Armenia's legal claims and corridor disputes risk delays. Turkey's mediation and India's support for Armenia may facilitate dialogue, but Russia's post-Ukraine re-engagement could complicate outcomes. Joint economic projects, like a $200 million trade zone, could stabilize the region. Turkey's assertive foreign policy positions it as a key player across multiple theaters. In the Caucasus, its drone exports and $2 billion energy investments have strengthened Azerbaijan, aligning with pan-Turkic goals. In Syria, the 2024 fall of Assad has allowed Turkey to expand influence, deploying 12,000 troops against Kurdish forces in Rojava, straining U.S. relations, which support the SDF with $600 million annually. Turkey's mediation in Ukraine, hosting 2024 talks, balances NATO ties with Russia, despite tensions over its S-400 purchase, which triggered $2 billion in U.S. sanctions. In the Middle East, Turkey competes with Iran, leveraging anti-Israel rhetoric while maintaining $8 billion in trade with Israel. Its drone exports to Pakistan and Ethiopia, worth $4.5 billion, rank it among the top 10 arms exporters. Turkey's pipelines, transporting 35 billion cubic meters of gas, position it as an energy hub. Economic challenges, including 48% inflation and 14% unemployment, limit its ambitions, requiring reforms to sustain influence. Israel's conflicts with Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and the Houthis define its security landscape. The Israel-Hamas war, reignited in 2023, has killed 42,000 in Gaza, displaced 2 million, and destroyed 65% of infrastructure. A 2025 ceasefire failed due to disputes over hostages and disarmament. Israel strikes on Hezbollah, targeting 85% of its rockets, and Iran's proxies have weakened Tehran's network. But Iran's nuclear program, 6 months from breakout, remains a threat. Houthi attacks on Red Sea shipping, disrupting 12% of global trade, prompted US-UK airstrikes killing 400 Houthis. Israel's $1.3 billion arms to Azerbaijan align it with Turkey against Iran and Armenia. Gaza's crisis fuels anti-Israel sentiment, stalling Saudi normalization despite $12 billion in trade. A US-Iran deal could stabilize the region, but Iran's proxy escalation is a risk. A two-state solution or $5 billion in regional economic aid is critical for stability. Other flashpoints include the South China Sea, where China's clashes with the Philippines over Second Thomas Shoal, involving 10 ramming incidents, risk escalation with U.S. patrols. North Korea's 60 missile tests and 12,000 troops in Russia heighten tensions, with U.S.-South Korea exercises involving 25,000 troops. Sudan's war, killing 22,000, disrupts 10% of gum Arabic supplies, drawing Russian and Chinese influence. Balkan tensions in Kosovo, with 6,000 NATO troops, risk conflict. In the Arctic, melting ice opens routes for 15% of trade, with Russia's 12 warships and China's $20 billion investments competing with NATO. The Sahel's insurgencies, displacing 5 million, attract Russian Wagner and Chinese aid, destabilizing 10% of global cobalt supplies. New dimensions include AI's role in geopolitics, with US $220 billion and China $80 billion investments creating rival ecosystems, risking a splinternet. The energy transition, with $650 billion in global renewables, shifts power to solar leaders like China, 50% of panels. Migration, with 1.2 billion at risk by 2050, fuels instability, as seen in 10 million South Asian displacements. Multilateral institutions like the UN, with only 8% of 2024 resolutions passing, and the WTO, stalled since 2019, struggle to govern. BRICS's $120 billion new development bank challenges the IMF, while the EU's $15 billion defense fund and ASEAN's $2 trillion trade bloc enhance regional resilience. The polycrisis, conflicts, climate, and inequality, top 1% own 52% of wealth, amplifies risks. Nuclear escalation, economic losses, $1.5 trillion by 2027, and climate displacement are threats. But cooperation through the G20, AI innovation, and regional blocs offers opportunities. Governments must model 15-year risks, businesses diversify supply chains, 45% relocated in 2024, and civil society promote digital literacy for 3.5 billion users. The New World Order demands resilience and collaboration to build a stable global system. Stay informed on the critical geopolitical shifts shaping our world. Like this video to support in-depth analysis, subscribe for weekly updates on global conflicts and the New World Order, share to spark meaningful discussions, and comment below with your insights or questions. Let's navigate this multipolar landscape together.